Is Jimmy Butler heading to the Phoenix Suns? That is the most pressing rumor surrounding Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat right now. This photo, could it become a reality by the time the trade deadline rolls around in early February? We will talk about that. But make sure you do have your notifications turned on. Now, you have to be subscribed to have your noties on, but news, rumors can drop at any moment. And when we drop a video covering it or breaking it down, do not miss a thing. Make sure you're subscribed, but make sure you click that notification icon as well to make sure you never miss a video that we put out. All right, remember that photo we just showed at the top of the video? Yeah, that was accompanied by this tweet from Ernie the Man saying good morning with that photo of Jimmy in a Suns uniform with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Why am I showing this? Why am I talking about this? Well, if you did not know, if you are not on Heat Twitter, then you may not know that Ernie the Man is Jimmy Butler's best friend. And maybe the best friend is the strong point, but it's one of his closest friends. He travels with Jimmy Butler all the time. You can always see Ernie in photos playing dominoes with Jimmy, which he often does on vacation. Ernie also sits courtside quite a bit at Miami Heat games. So to say that he has no idea on what Jimmy is thinking, what Jimmy is feeling, I think would be naive. And now, do I think he is speaking for Jimmy Butler to the media? Absolutely not. But like I just mentioned, there is no way that anyone should see him be tweeting these stuff and think it means nothing. Because maybe he doesn't know what Jimmy's feeling, but he at least has an idea, right? And then when you combine that with what Shams Charania said just over the last 48 hours when asked about the Jimmy Butler story, asked about how he felt about Bernie Lee, Jimmy's agent, clapping back at him on Twitter, Shams said to Pat McAfee that this is probably the most vetted story that he's ever put out, and he's confident in that story. And I responded to that quote, by the way, on Twitter by saying this. I just want this on the record. The fact that Shams has the most vetted story of his career is just a lie. That's the craziest thing that I've ever heard. If it was the most vetted story of his career, I promise you it would not have this much smoke around it. But I do side with Shams because he does do this for a living and he would not put out fake information. He is the most respected NBA insider and reporter in the game right now. And alongside that quote he just dropped that we shared, he doubled down saying that the top two destinations that Jimmy Butler would prefer in any trade is the Phoenix Suns or Golden State Warriors. Now, I do want this on the record that Jimmy Butler at this moment has not requested a trade away from the Miami Heat. It is specifically if the Heat were to trade Butler, Jimmy would want to go to these two spots because he would believe it would give him the best chance to win an NBA championship. And I do not disagree with the Phoenix Suns. Golden State, I think they would be competing, but I don't know if they would be able to win with just Steph and Jimmy in that loaded Western Conference. But I do feel very confident in making this statement right now. I think that if Jimmy Butler is no longer on the Heat roster past February 6th, which is the NBA trade deadline, I would be willing to put a lot of money that it is either because he is with the Phoenix Suns or the Golden State Warriors. If I had to predict it, I would still probably say he's a member of the Miami Heat past the deadline. But if he is traded, I think we have kind of eliminated that Dallas Mavericks rumor. The Rockets rumor is hanging on by a thread, and it's going to be either the Warriors or the Phoenix Suns. Which brings me to this question. Which would you rather trade with? The team, that is. Type PHX for the Phoenix Suns. Type GSW for the Warriors. Today's pinned comment. Out of these two options, I would absolutely choose the Golden State Warriors, but I want to talk about the Phoenix Suns because I just don't see the Suns as an option. And we talked about this originally when the first report on Jimmy wanting to go to the Suns as one of his preferred destinations popped out. Why is this not an option? It's because of this man right here, Bradley Beal. He has a full no-trade clause in his contract when he signed with the Washington Wizards, which means he has to give the okay. He has to sign off on any trade happening. This was a roadblock when Beal was originally traded from Washington to Phoenix because there was a very small list of teams that Beal had on his list when he was potentially moving out of Washington. Now, ironically enough, the two teams that he did waive his no trade clause for, well, obviously the Phoenix Suns, and it was also reported the Miami Heat. So he might waive his no trade clause to come to the Heat because he likes the city of Miami. He's friends with Bam Adebayo, so that could happen. But as we mentioned, he would have to be traded out of Phoenix due to his contract. And why in the world would the Miami Heat want Bradley Beal in return for Jimmy Butler? To me, I know there's a rumor out there that if they traded Jimmy, they'd look to get assets back that would not make them a tanking basketball team, aka the right package to get in terms of draft capital and young assets, and they'd want actual winning players that can plug in and play right now. Bradley Beal maybe might be the best one out there that you'd get in return for Jimmy Butler. But why would you want to take on that contract that Bradley Beal has where he's getting paid $50 million over the next 3 seasons, and he still would have that no trade clause, so you couldn't even deal him in a couple years when he was an expiring contract? To me, it makes no sense for Miami to take back Bradley Beal in any potential trade for Jimmy Butler, which makes this very, very complicated because it would have to be a 3-team trade if Miami does not want Bradley Beal. So here is a wild trade idea that I came up with that is no chance of happening. In this trade, Jimmy Butler goes to the Suns. The Hornets, as a team that could probably use a guard to help out LaMelo Ball in the backcourt, they would be willing to take on Bradley Beal. They receive Beal and 3 second-round picks, but in order to comply with cap regulations in the CBA, they trade Miles Bridges and Grant Williams, 2 forwards, to Miami, who can take those contracts after moving on from Jimmy Butler. But the Heat, as an incentive to move off of Jimmy, also get that 2031 first-round pick unprotected from the Phoenix Suns, which would actually be a really good asset, by the way, because you have to imagine in 2031, Jimmy Butler will be retired, Kevin Durant will be retired, and there's a high probability that the Phoenix Suns stink, and that pick would be pretty high in the NBA draft. But I do want you to mellow out here. Shout out to Mellow Seltzer, sponsor here at the Heat Report, and one of my new favorite drinks, by the way. If you have any questions on Mellow, hit me up on social media at Nic_Rohloff. But when you look at that trade I just showed, how far-fetched is that? The Heat taking back Grant Williams and Miles Bridges, the Hornets jumping in to take Bradley Beal and 3 second-round picks, the Suns being willing to trade Bradley Beal a first-round pick and 3 second-round picks for Jimmy Butler, who's 35 years old and is wanting a 2-year Supermax extension. All sides in that trade that we just showed would have a legitimate reason to say, hell no. Now, it is possible that would happen, but I just don't think it's even feasible for a trade that seismic to even happen in this situation. So to me, I don't think it's even a realistic opportunity for Jimmy to be traded to the Phoenix Suns. But let me know your thoughts on this. Get your vote in. Do you want Jimmy Butler to stay with the Miami Heat? Type Y for yes or type N for no. And I want this on the record. I have been an advocate for potentially moving off of Jimmy Butler in favor of some young assets and draft picks because I don't think that he can win an NBA Finals this season. And if you can't win an NBA Finals now, when are you going to be able to win a Finals? Probably not with Jimmy if you gave him an extension over the next 2 years. So my thing is, why not get assets back, build around Bam and Tyler, and try to use that draft capital and young players you get in return for Jimmy to build for the future. But if you are not getting that offer, I am not giving him away for nothing. It makes no sense for you to trade Jimmy for a package like the one we just showed from Phoenix. Like, I'm not doing that. I am only trading Jimmy Butler if you get a good enough package. And if you do not get enough of a good package, just extend them. You saw the numbers on screen. $55 million next year, $58 million in 26-27. You're only adding 1 more year to his contract. He's under contract technically for a player option next year, so you're only guaranteeing that and giving him a $3 million raise and adding a $58 million year in 26-27. So you're only adding 1 more year. Like, if you're not getting a good enough package back for Jimmy Butler, I know it's a large contract. Do not settle. Just give him an extension and keep him around here until he retires in 2 or 3 seasons because he has done so much for you, and I'm only trading that away if you get an unbelievable good package. All right, I'll do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to drop content on the daily surrounding Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. We are also going to be live for almost every Heat basketball game. We'll be back live on Friday for a Heat Thunder watch party. So make sure you're subscribed and make sure you stay tuned.